Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. We are just 8 days away from the release of Dragon Ball Gekishin Squadra, and the hype is unreal. I was lucky enough to play the beta test several months ago, and I'm excited for the release of this game in just over a week, because while the game was out, Dr. Graphs and I played it a lot, to say the least. Plus, I've already technically been accepted as a Squadra creator by the company, just waiting for them to review my paperwork, and then we're in. So you can expect more Squadra content. Maybe that's all I do for the rest of my life. But because this is my first video on the game, we're going to break down everything we know so far about the game. If you've never heard of it, if you haven't seen it played, this video is for you. But also, we're going to be speculating on the final 2 spots for the roster. I have someone in mind, but we'll save that for the end. We're going to get through everything we know so far, what's been released very recently, and yeah, then we'll get into speculating. So yeah, let's start with the basics. The game is called Dragon Ball Gekishin Squadra. It was originally codenamed Project Multi. What the heck does it mean? The release date is September 9th for pretty much every platform, every console, even PlayStation 4, even far back as PlayStation 4, Nintendo Switch, and everything. And they recently confirmed that Crossplay will be in the game on launch. So you'll be able to play with all of your friends no matter what they're on, which is great. I think it was on in the beta. I never got around to trying it because maybe I was on vacation. It was too long ago. Gameplay-wise, it's described as a top-down action RTS, which, I don't know, I think is a misnomer. I think that's the wiki that says that. And their website calls it a super team battle. But it's a MOBA. A great one. At least it was during the beta. They could have changed everything, you never know. But it was great. It was a great MOBA. You know, so it's 4-on-4 action. You could play with 3 of your buddies and fight another 4-person team, which, yeah, is a lot of fun. There will be 22 unique heroes. We're not sure on those last 2, like I said before. And they fit into 3 roles: damage, tanks, or technical. You level up throughout the match. You get, you unlock power-ups, you know, like you can become Super Saiyan. You get stronger attacks, etc. as you level up. And there's, like, non-playable characters and bosses all over the field that you defeat as you progress, trying to reach your goal. And that's the main and most major part of the main game mode, which is what is called a standard battle, which is the main MOBA type mode, where you have to fight your way across the battlefield, taking down the gods of destruction and taking the enemy team's Dragon Ball. There's other bosses on the map, so you fight everything and anything you possibly can in an attempt to level up as fast as you can, so you're stronger than the enemy team, etc. Then there's land grab, which is kind of like a battlefield conquest type game mode, where you just take zones and try to keep all the zones until you get a certain amount of points. And then another game mode, which I'm not sure if it was even there during the beta, is called Finders Keepers. And that is it's described as an asymmetrical treasure hunt, and one team is trying to stop you from finding treasure chests, which I haven't played it. I don't know. We'll have to figure that out once it comes out. And so, yeah, the hype train hasn't slowed down. This is where they're at with their latest update of pre-registrations or wish lists, or however you attempted to get this game. Basically, you sign up. They've reached 1 million, so you get all of these things on release if you've wishlist or pre-registered before the game comes out. I don't know if they can actually keep track of that, or it's just going to be everyone who downloads the game when it comes out, whatever. But if they get to 2 million, there's this extra character automatically unlocked for everybody. You don't have everyone unlocked when you first get the game. You know, you got to get Z points or Zenny, and then you got to spend those to get capsules and this and that. And there's a whole, you know, free-to-play game type mystery box, mystery capsule type system in place. But one cool thing is you get a lot of those points just by playing the game. You get a lot of those Zenny Z points, whatever it's called. You get a lot of that just by playing and unlocking characters didn't take too long while we were playing it, but then at some point during the beta, they just gave you like all the money so you can unlock everyone and try everything, which they should have just had everything unlocked from the jump, but it made sense for them to test their whole unlock system. And recently they've released a couple characters that have been added to the roster. Obviously, we had Daima Goku as it was on that hype chart, milestone chart. But then they released Dabura added to the damage characters. Perfect Cell, which is another tank. He's the last tank on the roster. And then most recently, just yesterday, they released Hit and Android 17, which rounded out the technical roster. Now remains just two damage characters, unannounced. And they think that the roster is going to be 22 total. I imagine that over time they add more to that. And there may even be special announcement bonus that they haven't talked about yet. I don't know. I actually don't know, but there might be. But now is the time to have a little bit of fun. The final remaining damage spots for this roster, who will they be? I imagine that they would want this to be characters who would have a lot of hype behind them. Characters that most people who've ever been a fan of Dragon Ball Z, or Dragon Ball GT, or Dragon Ball Super, or anything in between would know and love. And I imagine they would want to focus more on Dragon Ball Z because it is arguably the most popular among the rest. And within the movies, and within characters people usually get hyped about, is Broly, the legendary Super Saiyan. Now, he would be an amazing character to use. His Eraser Cannon, his Berserk mode. He's a perfect damage character, especially when compared to their explanation of what a damage character is. And I think, in general, they're going to want these last two announcements to be as most hype as possible. Try to hit that 2 million pre-registration milestone. We don't have the exact number that they're running, so we have no idea where they're even at on that. But I think otherwise, we have... For the final spot, I think it would go along the same logic of super familiar, hits the most of the fandom, but perhaps we get Gogeta. That'd be a cool character, and maybe even like Super Saiyan Blue Gogeta. He could be quite the damage dealer. Plus, Goku's already a damage dealer, so it kind of just makes sense. I don't know. But then maybe Jiren. I think he would fit on the roster. He's got some seriously raw power in the show, and so as a damage player, it would make some sense. But I do think they would want to stick, again, to DBZ proper. Now, there's already one Boo, but there's two Gokus. So, I'm thinking maybe Boo, Super Boo, who's already absorbed Gohan, I think could be a great addition to the game. He'd be able to use, all sorts of attacks. Obviously, you'd have Kamehameha. And everybody loves Boo, especially in his, tall adult form, because he was the most vocal and, aggressive and edgy and cocky, and everyone loves the cocky characters in Dragon Ball Z. This is why I love Vegeta the most of all. I don't know if you can tell, there's some Vegetas in my background, and so that last spot, yes, and the last two spots obviously can be absolute wild cards, and maybe we're completely surprised by who they pick for that. And maybe even they do another Diamond character, maybe a little Vegeta to, because there's a little Goku. I don't know. But my money is still on proper Dragon Ball Z characters that everyone knows and loves. Broly being the most possible. Maybe another version of Boo. And then anything in between there, who knows? There's already this giant list of non-playable characters that they're not going to reuse. And the 20 characters that they already released were good picks. Who else was I thinking that would be a funny character? Yeah, that's maybe Captain Ginyu, right? But his body, they would have to do the body switch move, and that would be a whole nother aspect to this game in general. That would only happen if you were Ginyu. And then what happens if you got two Ginyus? and etc. And I think that's just like outside of the scope of this game or this type of game. So probably not Ginyu. Zarbon, but he's not really strong and we don't see him that much. Bardock, people love Bardock, but he's basically Goku and we already have 2 of them. So who knows? We'll see. And that's everything we know so far about Gekishin Squadra. We could just call it Squadra maybe from now on. I don't know. Or we can call it Budokai Tenkaichi Squadra Gekishin Z Fighter Z. I don't know. Whatever you want to call it. It doesn't matter to me, but it's the DBZ MOBA or the Dragon Ball MOBA. And I'm excited for it. September 9th. It's coming fast. And I can't wait for it to come out and dive into the full release. I can't wait to get into the Squadra Creators Discord and get some inside scoops. But what do you guys think? Who do you think is going to fill those last 2 damage spots? Do you think my predictions are good ones or not? Let me know. And anyone that you can possibly think of that would fit those roles within reason. You could be silly and tell jokes as well. I don't care, but leave those in the comments and don't forget to press like, subscribe, and come back for more Dragon Ball Gekishin Squadra content because that's what I'm going to be doing for a while here. Unless it doesn't make sense and all of a sudden I can't handle it anymore. But I doubt that'll happen. So stick around, drop those guesses, and I'll see you in the next video as we get closer to launch day. Bye-bye.